Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you are, how you might be watching slash listening. Thank you for making this part of your day. My name is Justin,
My name's Alexander.
and we are the hockey podcast you're about to hear. And Alexander, did I ever tell you I can't stand Russian nesting dolls?
Why?
They're so full of themselves.
Oh dear.
Sorry, I'll just take that joke and put it in a box, and put it inside another box.
You nailed that box to yourself.
There you go. Thank you. I knew you wouldn't let me down. All right, on that note, shall we recap what happened in 2019 2020?
Yeah, when last we left our heroes, we were heading into the conference finals, Eastern Western Conference finals, and it was the end of August, or as weird as that was. Um, but no, we were down to our final four teams. Tampa Bay was going to go play the Islanders, and the Stars were going to play the Vegas Golden Knights. And so, anything from those two series that you remember that you care to recap for us, Justin?
Well, I remember at that point I stopped betting against Dallas, even though I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't sure how they were still going.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I'd picked the Islanders to advance, I just couldn't pick them to advance against the Lightning.
Right. Yep. The Lightning were just kind of on a whole nother tier than everybody else that was in the playoffs.
Yep.
At that point,
Mm-hmm.
they're just dispatching teams. They lost one game against Columbus. They lost one game against Boston. So basically, they went into the Islanders having lost only two games in their last however many games. They were just on a roll. They were
Yeah.
a behemoth. Um, Dallas was in a good fight with Colorado to get to
Mm-hmm.
the finals. That series went to seven. Went maybe longer than it should have based on where things were, but it did go seven.
Right.
Um, and Vegas didn't look dominant against anybody that they played. They played a lot of close series as the first round with Chicago, and then went seven with Vancouver. Uh, but in the
Yeah.
end, Dallas would be much stronger than Vegas at that point, and Tampa Bay was much stronger than the Islanders, and so Dallas and Tampa Bay played each other for the final.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of the Stanley Cup final?
I'm happy that Tampa Bay won, which may sound weird
I
as a
am
Lightning
also.
fan, but yeah, I did not want to see Dallas lift the cup.
Yeah. No, and it was one of those situations where definitely the better team won. You're always afraid that,
Mm-hmm.
a team's going to find a way to steal a series or something,
Yeah,
or something unexpected is going to happen. The Cup final had a lot of exciting games, I thought.
it did. It was a good series, I thought.
Yeah, for a series that didn't go seven, it was still very, very fun to watch and very intense. Um, we had Stamkos returning from one game for an injury, playing his 2.5 minutes, scoring a goal after he knew he injured himself and was going to come back on the ice. So he went and scored a goal and then left the ice and hasn't played since.
Right.
Um,
So if you're gonna do it
we had,
though, that's the way to do it.
yeah, we had somebody named Victor Hedman that basically is just a mammoth of a man on skates that has the skill of a forward that is just magic to watch. He dominated the series, in my opinion.
Yep.
Kind of dominated the whole playoffs, really. Um, and so it was a good final, and one that I don't feel was necessarily in doubt. Just watching the teams play,
Right.
so it was very very entertaining.
I
Um,
agree.
and to Dallas's demise, they suffered a ton of injuries.
They
But
did.
that's the NHL playoffs, right?
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
it's a grueling crucible
Mm-hmm.
of whatever guys you have left standing versus whatever guys we have left standing. Then we go hash it out. And Dallas just didn't have as many guys left standing.
Right.
They really, really suffered. And having longer physical series previously led to that. Tampa Bay took care of business. They didn't let teams hang around. They knocked them out in 5 games, knocked them out in 5 games, knocked them out in 6 games to get to this point where Dallas took a little bit of a longer route. They had more games and more wear and tear on the body. A lot of injuries that affected their outcome. So
Yeah, like I said, I'm still not sure. Like even at fully healthy, I'm not sure how they got there, but it was crazy to watch.
yeah, again, it was those kind of things like sometimes a goaltender has like a magical postseason.
Right.
And Qdobin was playing far above his station
Oh yeah.
for what you would have expected from an older backup goaltender. Like if you would have said Ben Bishop was standing on his head and they were winning games, I would have been like, yeah,
Okay.
he can
Yeah.
totally do that. But
No.
when it's Dobby, it was surprising for them to get there, and eventually he couldn't continue to carry the team against a far superior
Right.
Tampa Bay
Just
squad.
eventually wore down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like
And Tampa Bay was exercising demons from previous years.
yeah, they were
You
on a
know,
mission.
yeah, like that team has seen a lot of struggle and frustration and disappointment over the past five to
Oh
10 years,
yeah.
really. And so there was a will there that, I'm not going to say Dallas didn't have the will to win, but Tampa Bay just had a much stronger will than anybody else that they faced.
Oh yeah. There's something about getting that close and losing that really can drive you the next season to finish it off.
Yeah, or being embarrassed the previous year in the first
Yeah,
round.
that too.
They had a ton of motivation. They also had Andre Vasilevsky, who basically looks like there's no other goaltender close to him in
Yeah,
the league.
certainly doesn't hurt.
I'd say between him and Connor Hellebuck in Winnipeg,
Mm-hmm.
those two guys right now are the class of the league.
I would agree.
And then there's another tier. It's just Vasilevsky has a superior team around him, whereas Hellebuck doesn't.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Not close in my opinion either.
Hmm.
So, but no,
So
overall, I thought the playoffs went well. I know there was a controversy kind of for one of the games for the refs, but other than that, I don't remember a whole lot of
mhm.
complaints from. I mean, of course, you're
Yeah,
always gonna have fans. Oh, the refs are against us this game, but are they though?
mhm.
Are they though? But yeah, overall, no, I thought it was all of it went well, especially being in the bubble life and all that good stuff.
Yep. Bubble life, no positive tests, got the whole thing done, got it done early,
Yeah,
and it just honestly the NHL pulled it off really, really well.
they did.
I thought.
I did too. And the games were
It was
great games. Like,
good games. Yep.
yeah.
Yep. I
Apart
didn't
from
I
having
didn't
no.
feel like the quality of hockey was
Yes.
lower than it should have been. I
Yep.
felt like it was on par with standard playoff hockey.
Yep. That's what I was about to say. Apart from having nobody in the stands, you couldn't tell that something was off from how the games were going.
Yeah. Yeah. So kudos to the NHL and
Mm-hmm.
everybody that worked hard to pull that off for us. We appreciate the entertainment.
Yes, we do. It was definitely welcome to have that back.
Hmm.
Oh, that was a long couple months.
Yeah.
So,
So once those are over, they weren't sure when they were going to start up again, and
mm-hmm.
so the off season was a unknown amount of time. The reason we are here now on the 9th of January 2021 is because hockey's coming back in 4 days,
Woo!
and finally have a starting point and a plan, and things are going to move forward, and we're going to kick off another season.
Yes.
So it's time to wrap up the off season.
Mm-hmm.
Free agent signings, trades. There was a draft. There were guys that retired. Um, what stuck out to you from this last off season, Justin, that you want to hit on?
Well, so probably just. I mean, of course, goalie's going to the Flames for free agency, but we can get to that in a minute.
Hmm.
I don't know, just how weird everything was for the offseason to go and how actually well the plan went. I thought that the NHL came out with to schedule things and keep things moving forward.
Hmm. Yeah, and I know they've taken some heat for
Oh yeah.
coming back slower than the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
The NBA came back early for financial reasons because they could come back as early as possible so they could make money for their big Christmas weekend.
Yeah.
The NHL didn't have that as a revenue stream, and so there wasn't necessarily a rush. But it looks odd when one sport comes back and the other one doesn't when their seasons closely
Yeah.
mirror each other.
Oh yeah, very closely. Because I think they
And
even
so,
resumed playoff play around the same time, didn't they?
yeah, they were both in their bubbles at the same time. They're kind of
Mm-hmm.
champions within like a week or week and a half of each other.
Yep.
And so there's kind of an expectation they'd kind of start back up again like they usually do.
Oh, NBA starting
And
up. I bet NHL's about
yeah,
to start up. Wait, what?
yeah, yeah. Um, and I think what was maybe lost in all this is the complications of having 7 Canadian
Yep.
teams playing in your conference or in your league.
Mm-hmm.
Is it made everything more complicated
Oh
than it
yeah.
did for the NBA because the NBA just said, okay, our one Canadian team, you're going to play in Florida this year, and that's how we're going to get around this, and then they could just schedule whatever they wanted. You can't do that in the NHL,
Yeah.
and so there was a lot of different things that went into trying to make this coming season happen from a structural standpoint, and so that's why it starts so much later. They had a lot more red tape to get through. They wanted to wait for a lot more information and other things to pull this off, in addition to some potential CBA drama uh, based on what was agreed to in the off season and what owners wanted to try and tack more expenses on and whatnot. But in the end, they kept the same CBA they had agreed to before they came back into the bubbles this last summer,
Right.
and we're just going forward this year with separate divisions for Canada and 3 separate divisions in
Mm-hmm.
America. And we'll cover that in our next episode. We'll go through those for you and tell you what we think is going to happen, inform you as to who's where and how the schedule is going to look. But if we get back to the off-season topics, you mentioned goaltenders and free agent goaltenders. There was a lot of them this year,
Yeah, there were.
and so we moved Markstrom out of Vancouver into Calgary. We moved Braden Holtby out of Washington into um,
Vancouver.
Vancouver. We moved Lundqvist out of New York into Washington, who then had a heart
Eh.
issue and is not going to play this year, maybe never play again.
Right.
So there was a
So that's
lot
a
of
major bummer.
goaltenders, major goaltenders that moved around, like high
Yeah.
quality, high caliber type guys.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that was one of the big things over this offseason. The other one was some key defensemen that changed teams. The
Right.
first one that comes to mind for me is Petrangelo,
Yep.
leaving St. Louis, going to Las Vegas,
Uh-huh.
which to fill that void in St. Louis, Torrey Krug left Boston and went to St. Louis.
Which that's a
And
little
then,
weird.
yeah, and then to add insult to Boston, they didn't bring back Zdeno Chara, and he went to Washington. So 3 pretty big name defensive guys in our league for the past several years are now changed teams.
Right.
In addition to a host of other second line, third
Mm-hmm.
line defensive guys have moved all around the league
So now Nate Schmidt
this
went
year.
from Vegas to Vancouver.
Yep, yep.
So
And then yeah, there's it's kind of all across the league. I mean, if you're really into who went where, you probably already know. Um, so, and if you don't know and you want to know, it's certainly something you can look up. But
oh yeah,
that's not necessarily our intention on this podcast to go team by team, line by line of everything that happened. But there was a number of interesting
there were.
moves that happened.
For being a crazy off season, it was a crazy off season on top of that.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And then what else do we have as far as trades go? I don't necessarily feel like there was a ton of major trades. I know Max
no.
Domi left Montreal and went to Columbus in exchange for that big young kid. I forget his name. But anyway,
Yeah, I can't remember either.
was it a Carpenter or I don't remember.
Mm,
But there wasn't any blockbuster trades.
no.
I only know the one free agent that was, I would say, significant on the forward side was probably Taylor Hall, signing a 1 year deal in Buffalo,
Right, which I feel like
so
that
that,
came out of left field.
so that Jack Eichel has a buddy to play with, I guess.
Yay!
Uh, Other than that, I don't feel like there was a ton of major season moves that really dramatically affected things. When we get to our divisional previews and go through some teams, we'll look and
Yeah.
see if there's anything that we should bring up. But as it was, yeah, I feel like it was a pretty normal off season as far as the number of players moving around and drama and no drama kind of thing.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
um,
So
yeah.
how did you think your Red Wings did in the off season?
So the Red Wings off season. One, we have to establish the fact that the Red Wings had a terrible, terrible year last year. Like historically awful. That was due to a number of things, but personnel plays a large factor in that, and
Mm-hmm.
they they needed to change a lot of personnel over the next several years to get better. To even become a team that can contend for a playoff spot, they're still a couple years away from being able to do that. And so, to move towards that direction, you got to get rid of some pieces that aren't working, and some pieces that are getting too old, and bring in some newer pieces, see if they work, and bring in some younger pieces and see if they work.
Right.
And so, this offseason was a step in that direction. And honestly, I think it was a very strong step in that direction. So
Mm-hmm.
there's some new faces. There's um, Vlaslav Nemestikov. There's Bobby Ryan. Um, we brought in Mark Stahl, but that was more of a contract thing to get some draft picks and whatnot. We brought in Troy Stetcher out of Vancouver. We found somebody named John Merrill. I have no idea where he came from. And then out of the Islanders, we brought in another free agent goaltender, Thomas Greiss.
Right.
So they added forwards, added defenseman, added a goaltender. Like if you're going to go about changing a team, you kind of start touching it everywhere. And so their offseason, I think, was good. They created a ton of cap room. Detroit has been a bad team with cap issues for the past several years,
Yeah,
and
paying off those playoff runs.
they're they're a bad team with cap space, and they'll
Which, hey,
eventually
that's where you want to
become
be.
a better team with cap space, and then you can become a good team with cap issues. That's kind of the cycle of things right now in the NHL.
Right.
So they really do have a lot of options. Like this year, they're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 guys that are going to be UFAs at the end of this year. So that's all cap space they can take off and replace with somebody totally different if they want to. So that's a very a good thing as they try to turn over the roster and find what they want to work and not work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited for that.
Right.
It's
You
going to
got
be
Eisenman at the
another.
helm too, so that should be
Yeah,
pretty good sign.
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, this is how he has to go about making changes, and he's certainly willing to do that, which is
oh yeah,
great.
oh yeah.
Which is honestly great. Detroit had some restricted free agents to sign this offseason. Tyler Bertuzzi, they got on just a 1 year deal, a 1 year cheap $3.5 million deal. He's a top line forward for Detroit. He wouldn't be on hardly any other teams, but in Detroit, he is a top line forward.
One of
Um,
those.
but they were able to sign Anthony Mantha to a much longer term deal. They got him for 4 years at $5.7 million a year. And that is a really good deal for somebody of Anthony Mantha's skill.
Right.
Assuming he can stay healthy, which he's yet to be able to do.
Yeah.
And so that's a situation there. I think there's also an expectation that there will be some guys that will be left available for Las Vegas to take in the upcoming off season.
For
Their
Seattle.
draft, they get to take Seattle.
Yeah.
And that will be another way in which we kind of purge a contract off of the Red Wings.
Right.
Because we have plenty of guys that we can leave open and say, hey, you can take him.
Oh
We
no!
don't mind.
Don't take him, please don't. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Bye. Yeah.
So we'll have 10 guys we don't have to re-sign. We have some restricted free agents we don't have to re-sign. We have somebody that we can expose, a bunch of people we can expose to Seattle. So
Yeah.
I think it'll be another good off season.
Right.
This upcoming off season to continue to reshape the Red Wings.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, that's crazy. It's gonna be this next off season, isn't it, for Seattle?
Yeah.
The draft. Wow.
Yeah. There's a draft, then there's the free. I think there's the rookie draft, and then there's the Vegas or not the Seattle draft, or it's vice versa. The Seattle gets the draft, then there's the rookie draft, and then there's free agency. But they follow each other like several days apart.
I think Seattle draft is first. That way
I think
teams can address
so,
what
yes.
they lost. I think.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Because some teams will trade their picks to keep some of their players so that Seattle doesn't take their players.
Right.
Is what they did with when Vegas came in. They made a bunch of deals. They're like, okay, we won't take this guy that you have to expose, but we'll take this guy and this guy instead if you give us some draft picks. There was a lot of, they call them side deals.
Right.
And there's expectation that Seattle's going to do a bunch of that as well. Because teams are going to be in bad cap situations.
We're not going to do that again this time. Well, you might not have much of a choice this time around, so unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that'll be an interesting offseason coming up.
Yep.
But no, as far as the Red Wings offseason goes, I was satisfied with the moves they made. I don't think there was a bunch of other moves out there. I'm like, oh, how come you didn't do this or do this? It's like you make 5, 6, 7 moves, put some new guys on the roster, you throw them out there again this year, see who stays healthy, see who plays well, and who has a spot in this team for the next year. And you clean house to the rest of the guys, and you do the whole another cycle again of some new players until you kind of figure out who's going to be the core that is going to be here for the next 3 to 5 years when we actually say, okay, this is our window to start to get into the playoffs again and become a contending team.
Right. Are they named a captain yet or not yet?
They have not named a captain. Okay. There's still an expectation that it will be Larkin.
Mm-hmm.
Eisenman has said that he is planning to name a captain before the start of the season, and this last week we've seen a lot of captains named. Honestly, I would say this offseason has been the offseason of the captain because Pietrangelo was a captain and he left where he was. Chara was a captain and he left where he was. And they named a captain, here and there. There's been a lot of captain movements around the league.
Right.
And Detroit's just going to be another one of those when the time comes. And it'll probably just be a simple press release because they're not going to be fans to do anything fun in front of. It's not going to be like a home opener where he skates out with a C on his chest. It's
Yeah,
not going to
that's gonna be
be
a bummer.
a
Yeah.
center ice ceremony with Yzerman and previous captains throughout Red Wings history, because the Red Wing captaincy is a lot of names that a lot of people are going to recognize,
Mm-hmm.
like Yzerman, like Lidstrom, like so on. And so it's a it's a cool history, and we're not going to be able to do it justice this year, which is disappointing.
Right.
But you know, um, I think it will be done. I'm hoping it will be done in a cooler fashion than just a press release. But I don't know if there's going to be a way to do that this year.
Yeah, I don't think you can really without.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll do a cool like behind the scenes video of like the announcement or something, and they'll
There you
release
go.
that as the information, or um, it'll just be like a poster that they put up of like a hype thing, and the C will just be somewhere on Larkin's jersey, and it'll be like,
Right.
oh, that's the thing, and that's their announcement video. I don't know. I'm hoping they do something cool, but they
Yeah,
might
cause
not.
like I said, it's a big deal, especially for such a storied franchise. Like,
Yeah, because like if you name a captain in Detroit, you're not expecting him to be a captain for a couple years, and then
right.
you're gonna trade him or he's gonna leave. It's like you name a captain because he's going to be the guy for a long time. Like Eisman was captain, I think, for 19 or 20 years.
Oh,
You know, um,
yeah.
yeah, it's just it's that kind of thing. And then I think it was Lidstrom for 5, 6, 7 years till he retired, and then it became Zetterberg until he retired. Like captains in Detroit retire; they don't get traded, they don't leave the team,
Yeah.
they
What,
end their careers.
which always strikes me as odd is when a captain doesn't retire with their team. It's like,
Yeah, like Chara
yeah.
or Petrangelo
Uh huh.
or these are the captains that have
Yeah.
gone elsewhere.
I can't remember one, but like a couple years ago, a captain got traded during the season. It's like, really?
Yeah, like that was Mike
All
Green
right.
for the Devils last year.
I mean, yeah,
Um,
that's what I'm thinking of. I was
yeah,
like,
they
alrighty.
it was yep. So yeah, we'll see what this year holds, and I'll give more thoughts, kind of looking forward, in our season preview next episode. But
Okay.
no, I think that's what I have on the Red Wings right now. Justin, what do you have on your Calgary Flames?
I thought it was okay. Um, not bad, but not great. The greatest thing, obviously, is Jacob Markstrom coming over, which I'm going to hold off judgment on that because I've been wrong quite a few times before about free agents coming in. You know, James Neal, Brian Elliott, Milan Lucic. I was down on him, but I'm actually very excited that he's here instead of James Neal, which I never thought I'd say, but here we are saying it. Um, so no, I think Markstrom should be, knock on wood, a good upgrade in goalie, which is a welcome change. Not that you know the goalie tandem last year was terrible; it just didn't light the world on fire. The other big thing is TJ Brody left to go to the Leafs, which I have mixed feelings on. He's a good player, like really good player, but sometimes he would just do stupid things or he just like try too much kind of things. So I remember a couple times, especially was it 2 years ago against the Avs in the playoffs, like there are a couple times where the overtime goals were because of him, or like the goals that were allowed to get to overtime were because of him. So I was like, still kind of remember those ones. But no, he was good. He was a good matchup with Giordano, but I think anybody's a good matchup with Giordano, if I'm being honest. So, but yeah, a few like third and fourth line guys left or got signed, and a couple practice squad guys left and got signed. So not big there. Another big thing is the coach. They went
Mm-hmm.
with interim Jeff Ward, which I don't think Jeff Ward is the guy. I'd love to be proved wrong on that, but I don't think he's the guy. And the fact that I heard that they didn't even interview anybody else blows my mind. They just gave it to Jeff Ward. I mean, I get being a little cheer guy, but again, I don't think he's the guy. And one of the knocks on the Flames for the last several years is how the players just kind of quit in the playoffs and don't get there and don't go, la la la, and they can't beat the coaching because they've had so many new coaches. But if you keep not getting the right coach, I don't understand how you can still blame that on the players. I mean, yes, some of that is on the players, but if you don't have a good coach guiding the players, then I think that some of it lies there. I remember the Lightning, Cooper got commended for how he was coaching during the playoffs against the Bruins, and it's like, oh, so it does matter to have good coaching. Oh, weird.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm not holding my breath, but you know, it could be. It could have gone better. Is all I'm saying. If they at least like interviewed some other people, like that would have been better than just
Mm-hmm.
nope. All right, we're just gonna give it to him. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
sure,
I think to that end, they went with the cheapest option available.
right. Which is I think what they've been doing the last few coaches, which is
Mm-hmm.
why they've been doing what they've been doing, in my opinion. That was
Mm-hmm.
the thing I was gonna rant on. Is like they don't really pay for coaches. They don't really pay for goaltending, except for this year they paid for goaltending. So we'll see how that goes out. But
They paid for goaltending this year and for the next like 7 years,
yep. So it's
6 years.
Six, yeah,
Years.
it's a 6x6 if I remember right, something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, it's like this, but this is the first year I think he's the highest paid goalie in quite some time for Flames, because they brought in like Mike Smith and Brian Elliott, and they still have Riddick. What else they have? I can't think. There've been a couple other goalies that they brought in that were not re-signed by the original team for reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I'm very excited that we actually paid for a goalie this year, and hopefully
Sure.
it doesn't. It's like a Bobrovsky situation in Florida,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. So I don't think they made a lot of improvements, but I don't think they made themselves worse.
Okay.
So we'll just have to see how it goes.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's where you kind of had a almost even plus minus
Mhm.
kind of off season
Yep.
with the losses and gains. But I do think that if you gained in the goaltending department, this particular season is going to be
Yes.
more significant than other seasons. So if you're going to spend on one position this off season, it's probably the correct one if you get the right guy.
I agree.
And I think they got a pretty good guy
I agree.
as far as who was out there at that price point. So I think that was pretty good. That was kudos.
So yeah, I was definitely excited when I saw that come in and come through my phone. So yeah, we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just have to have
Good
some
deal.
people playing in front of them now. Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah. All right. Well, one more thing that we were going to get to in this off season,
Mm.
there was a rule change or rule modification. They didn't actually change the rule, which they should do, but they didn't. They modified the existing offside rule. So the way it used to read was a player was deemed offside if his skate was no longer in contact with the blue line or outside the blue line when the puck crossed the blue line into the offensive zone. They have now changed the rule to where a player is still considered onside if his skate is above the plane of the blue line when the puck crosses the blue line on the ice.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, think of the blue line and it goes straight up and down now, not just flat across the ice. And so long as any part of your blade is anywhere in the air above that blue line, you are still onside when the puck crosses.
Right.
Justin and I take differing opinions on whether or not this rule change was good or bad, needed or unneeded, and whatnot.
Right.
Justin, where do you come down on this rule change? Is it good or bad, and why?
I think the more I think about it, I think we've actually talked about this before. Like, I think we proposed this sometime last season. I don't know. I'm okay with it. I think it will fix a lot of the things, but it won't fix all the issues. But I'm not against this change by any means. Like I say, I think when the guy's skate was like a millimeter off, oh no, because that changed the play so much. I think this will help fix some of those. But I think it could lead to some long reviews, which I think is what it was trying to avoid.
Mm-hmm. In my mind, this fixes nothing. This is we are making a bad rule just a little bit different and keeping it a bad rule.
Right.
As far as basically what this is doing is a goal will be scored, and from now on we're still going to be like, yeah, you scored a goal. Quick, let's check the replay because that's what
Mm-hmm.
the opposing team is going to do immediately. As soon as they see the goal, they're going to
Oh,
like
always.
back this up, check their last entry into the zone, whether it was 10 seconds ago, whether it was a minute and a half ago. Can we get this thing overruled? Can we get them to change this? And that's the way it's been now since they brought this in and made it a reviewable, challengeable thing. And so that doesn't change now because this is there because a replay coach is still going to look at two replays and have to make the call of should we challenge this or not. And now you just added a vertical gray line that is going to be impossible to tell from a dozen different angles. Was his blade over? Wasn't it over? Was it
Mm-hmm.
over? Wasn't it over? At least it was hard to tell sometimes if somebody's blade was still touching the ice and still touching the blue. But at least that's something that is a closed, fixed point. Is the skate on the ice, yes or no? You could try and find that out. Now it's just this whole gray line of does it look like the skate lines up over the blue line that's in the air, or is it not over the blue line in the air? It's definitely in the air, but we can't quite tell because once you change the angle of the camera, unless it's perfectly
Yeah.
on the dead perfect spot, you're not going to be able to tell. And that's the issue with so many of these offside reviews is you can't tell for sure one way or the other. I could look at a replay where they said, okay, obviously if they're replaying it, they called the play onside, right? You can't go back and say, hey, this is offside. You blow the whistle at that point. So
Right.
you're only looking at ones that were miscalled. And you could tell me this play was called onside, this play was called offside. Do you see evidence one way or the other to say what it was? And they're like, I can't tell. It looks dead even. And all you're just doing is saying, hey, let's look at it another way. Well, you still can't tell 95% of the time. Yes, there's going to be a few situations where, hey, we can actually see his skate was on the blue line and he picked it up as the puck was crossing, but his foot was still where it was. Like, there's situations where, like, a guy is skating across and his front leg is well across the blue line, but his back leg is well on the other side of the blue line.
Mm-hmm.
But he picks his toe as he continues his stride. And so his upper torso is still on the blue line and his leg is still stretched behind him as the puck crosses. And that would have been offside before,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Now it won't be. But you're still going to have to go back and look at that a dozen different times before saying, like, oh, yes, he was onside. And that small fraction of a difference does not affect 99.9% of the plays that we're going back and reviewing. It's ridiculous. The whole reason we do this is so that if there's something that is clearly illegal that took place that gave another team a massive advantage, we can say that shouldn't have happened and take the goal away.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't do that.
Yeah. No,
You
I agree.
didn't fix a broken rule. You just modified it saying, hey, how about we throw a band-aid on this artery? See if it sticks. This doesn't do anything. I can't believe they took time to talk about this and decide on this and say, well, there, we did something. It's like, no, you did nothing but enrage your fans who think it's a stupid idea in the first place.
Yeah. I agree with you there. I think they do need to change it some more, but I just don't know how because I was going to bring up, I think it was the Preds last year. I saw one where the guy was on the backside of the play. He was like a foot off sides, but he never touched the puck, like ever. Didn't touch anybody else. Didn't do anything. He just skated in the back and kind of went down behind the goalie. And the guy who brought in the puck drove it down and scored. And they called it offside and bad goal. It's like, but he didn't actually affect the play whatsoever.
Exactly. This is looking at a problem and saying we're going to solve the box around the problem,
Right.
not the problem that's in the box. It's just maddening that this is you had this whole off season to make some rule changes. This is the one that they did.
Oh
And they didn't
yeah,
really
it's the
even
only
change
one.
the rule.
Yeah.
They just murkied it up a little bit more.
Right. Like I say, I think it'll be nice for those ones where he's like, oh yeah, his skate's just like a millimeter off, but it's still clearly above the blue line. I think it'd be nice for those, but I think you're right.
Yeah,
I think it'll be a whole other can of worms for
I think you're. I think there's going to be a number of um, challenges that otherwise would have prevented a goal,
right.
but now I think there's going to be a just same number of challenges to where it's like, hey, his skate was off, and we didn't think it was because
Mm-hmm.
now what's really going on is the referee is still the one making the call.
Uh-huh.
So when he's standing there on the blue line and he sees the guys cross, he can't just watch the skates on the ice. Where's the puck? Where's his skate? Because it used to be if he saw somebody skating in, he looked at the puck and looked up, and the guy's skate was already up in the air, and he
Mm-hmm.
could see who was offside. You call it. Now it's like, well, I have to now
Mm.
look at where your skate is in the air relative to when the puck crossed. It makes it that much harder for the referees, and once you make it that much harder, not the referees, the linesmen.
Yep.
Once you make it that much harder for the linesmen to try and find a visual point to see if somebody is on or offside, they're going to let more things go. So
Oh,
you're
yeah.
going to have more challenges because you're going to have more gray area because they couldn't tell. You made the job of the guys that are calling the rules harder by making the rule dumber.
Yeah.
And it's just maddening to me that this was a good idea from the NHL standpoint. It's like, you're not making anything better. Like, if you're not going to fix the rule, don't touch the rule.
Right. So over under on how long before we're all sick of the rule? You think a few weeks, a few games, a few months?
Um, I'd give it a month.
Month. Yeah.
Give it, well, actually, maybe less than that because we're playing such a condensed schedule
Oh,
this
that's
year.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, we're going to be a month in, and everybody's going to have played 10 to 15 games. So, yeah, I would say inside of the first month, it's going to be, wow, this is the replay we're looking at. This, how are we going to decide if that is or isn't?
Yeah.
If you had an invisible laser line or something and sensors
Oh,
in the
there you
skates to
go.
where it was just a
Yeah.
simple trigger, non-trigger kind of thing, but when it's still a judgment call from camera angles by the guy that made the call in the first place,
You're right. Well, he's going to think he
it's
called it
just
right the first
stupid.
time, so.
He's like, well, I don't see any evidence there that you can say for sure that that skate was over the blue line, therefore he was onside. So I'm going to keep calling him offside.
Mm hmm. Yeah.
It's just, it's stupid.
Right.
It's just stupid.
Yeah, I think it's a step in the right direction, although a very, very baby step. I think you're right. I think they could have not made this change at all, and nobody would have cared. But at least they're acknowledging there's something wrong with it, right?
Hey, yes. So if you're acknowledging there's something wrong with it, fix it.
Yeah.
This is you pointing out an error, and somebody be like, well, how about I just like scratch off that extra zero and write a 1 and call it good? It's like, no, you're still off in your answer by a lot. You didn't even do the problem correctly. Yeah, but if I go from incorrect to a different form of incorrect, I
Right.
at least addressed the issue. It's like, no, you didn't. The only reason you addressed this issue because you knew it's wrong. You know it's broken, but you don't know how to fix it, or you're not willing to fix it, which I think is a bigger issue.
Right.
And so, like, this will please the voices that are telling us we should do something about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
This will be fine.
Oh,
This
yeah.
isn't. This is the bare minimum, or maybe just a step below the bare minimum we can do to say we tried to fix it.
Right.
I would rather have had them just come out and say, there's no rule changes for this offseason. We will continue with the broken way things are, as opposed to pretending to try and fix something.
Right. I also think they need to cap how long the review actually takes, because if it takes more than 30 seconds, it's probably so close it doesn't matter.
This also is true.
So maybe next year, but probably not.
No, because you don't want to be changing the offside rule every single offseason.
Right. So it's probably gonna.
Right. So this is why, like, if you're going to do something with it, do it all the way. Do a big, meaningful change. And they're like, we'll just kind of bump it another inch on the table, and we'll come back in 3 years, and we'll bump another inch on the table, and then we'll come back another 10 years and take it all away.
Yeah, we addressed the issue. We didn't do anything about it, but we, acknowledged it was there. We got time now.
So this is my issue with this offside skate can be in the air kind of rule
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah.
It's stupid to me. Just absolutely stupid.
I agree. Well, I mean, like I said, maybe some corner cases it'll fix, but for the most part, you know. So.
Yeah. So anytime I see one of these reviews now, I'm going to be remembering it and highlighting it, and we'll talk about it at some point. Of this is what happened, and this is what would have happened if the rule wasn't in, and this is what happened if the rule is in, and hey, it didn't change a darn thing.
Right? No kidding. I do have another question, which we can, address at a different time if you want. But also the offsides ones where the guys are on like a line change, but they're still quote unquote in the zone. If that's
Or like
offsides,
that Landeskog one where he was
Yep.
stepping out of
mm-hmm.
the offensive zone as the puck was being brought in.
Yep.
And it's like that literally did not affect at all.
The question
Yeah.
I came up with is, why is there not too many men then on the ice?
Oh, because if he counts as a guy on the ice, then there should be too many men on the ice, right?
Yeah.
So what you're saying. It's like,
Yep.
well, if he's still technically there, then they had 6 men.
Uh-huh.
Well, it doesn't count because he's going off for a change. Then how can we count for offside?
That's exactly my
Yeah.
point. It's like, why does it matter? Didn't
Yeah.
so, but like I say,
Again,
we can.
you could have addressed the brokenness of the rule and fixed it.
Yeah.
Instead, they didn't.
Right. So even if they just said like if he's going off on change, he's not considered. That would have been like a whole leaps and bounds better. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
My proposal for this simple proposal is offside is no longer a challengeable play.
There
It
you
will
go.
be looked at like every goal has to be verified by Toronto,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Sometimes there's a delay because of like it looked like it crossed, it was called it crossed, and then they're going to take the next face off, but there's still a hand up and they're waiting for Toronto to confirm, yes, we can confirm it crossed the line, play on.
Yep.
So Toronto has to confirm the goal. Let Toronto confirm the goal for offside, and they can make the decision. They can look back at the replays and stuff and be like, okay, this was a unfair offside call. We're going to alert the official and we want him to come look at it.
Right.
Right.
I agree with
And
that.
so a horn goes off or whatnot and says, hey, we need to go look at something before you drop the puck again.
Yep.
That's fine. That takes it out of the coach's hands, takes it out of everybody else's hands except the people that actually should be looking at something independently of what's going on. And a goal scored, we can celebrate. And then only in the instances where this might have been a infraction that was deemed change the outcome of the play, is the referee called over to look at it. Otherwise, good goal, let's move on.
Right. Which that's what we all want, honestly. Good goal, let's go.
Yes.
Unless that goal is scored against your team, then it's like, wait, hold on, no. But
Yeah,
it comes with the territory, I think. So
yeah. I will tell you this: anytime you watch your team or the other team come into the offensive zone,
oh yeah,
you're watching for the offside. You're no longer watching like how the play is going to set up. You're like, well, hang on, there could be a goal on this rush, so let's watch the offside first and be like, oh, that looked like that might be offside. Even if they score a goal, I'm not going to get excited.
right, exactly. So
Or even if they score a goal, hey, I think we got him on offside.
oh yeah, that too. Wait, what do you mean that never got reviewed?
Yeah, why didn't they challenge that? I could see it in real time.
Yeah, sitting on my couch eating my chips. I know
Yeah.
better than these coaches.
Exactly. So
Yeah, it'll be
Alright.
interesting to see how it plays out this year for sure. And yeah, if it becomes more of a hot button topic than it already is.
yeah, well, I think I've horsed my voice out enough on that. I'm gonna have to get some water. So we should probably wrap this thing up.
Alrighty, sounds good to me. So if you don't have anything else, my name is Justin,
My name's Alexander.
and this is a hockey podcast you're about to hear, which you just did. So thanks for listening. We'll catch you later.
Bye.